Well, hello again from here inside the Emirates Stadium, and I don't know where to start this video tonight, with the collective of Newcastle United that was brave and was brilliant, or with the individuals within that and their bravery and their brilliance. The second half was quite incredible, that 5-5-0 formation. Arsenal didn't really have any shots, they were all blocked. Block party was what I wrote on full time. It really was quite something. I don't think I've ever seen resilience like that in all my years watching Newcastle United. And this is before we get to the merit marks. And a warning, guys, for once I've dispensed with our usual rules. I've had to put two players together and they're on the same spot on the podium. The Siamese centre halves. They came as a pair tonight. That gives you a clue as to two players who might just be making it. But I was dispatched here tonight and I came with an idea, and I was sat here in the press box. I was going to write about the dark arts versus the dark arts, the history of this fixture. A few years ago when Newcastle came here, drew 0-0, and they really irked Mikel Arteta and his players. Would they come here and employ the same tactics here tonight? They didn't have to. There were no dark arts. It was just illuminating brilliance from start to finish from Newcastle United. Yes, they had to ride that look, but they did it with class, they did it with control, they did it with bravery, with brilliance. Those words I used at the very top there. And it led me to think on full time, we've just been debating it downstairs in the press room there. Where does that rank in terms of nights under Eddie Howe? I would still say his best night, for all the emotion and everything about it, is PSG. That would take some beating. But I would argue this is potentially his biggest night. I think there is a subtle difference there. This was the night his team made the statement. On the back of those victories up the road at Tottenham a few days ago, Manchester United before that, to make it a triumvirate, to complete the trilogy of big away games against top six sides with a third victory, conceding only one goal in that time, to do it in a Carabao Cup semi-final, all that emotion, all that history on the line, that chance to get to Wembley, given that draw, coming away here to Arsenal. Wow, didn't they respond? Just tremendous, incredible, brilliant, fantastic, attach whatever superlative you want to it. And that is why I call it Eddie Howe's biggest night, because there was signs there of evolution. Now, they came here a few seasons ago. It was a famous night, the 0-0 draw. Again, all of the dark arts, they were born that night. We spent the next 6 weeks talking about Eddie Howe and Diego Simeone as if they were Siamese twins. Well, tonight, they did that to a degree, but in a different way, with control, with bravery, with that defensive just resilience. They didn't actually have to waste time. They didn't have to kick the ball away. They didn't have to really foul. And to see Dan Burn and Sven Botman epitomise that, those two were just absolutely fantastic. And when you've got the class and the quality of Alexander Isak at the other end, wow. And I come back to that word, evolution. They drew that game a few seasons ago, 0-0. Well, tonight, they had the resistance, they had the defensive side of things, they were streetwise, they were, without necessarily employing the dark arts, they were still streetwise, but at the other end, they had that quality to go and score the goals. And isn't that what the top teams, the very best teams, do? Eddie Howe was asked afterwards, just downstairs there, are your team the most exciting in Europe right now? He said, well, I'm not going to answer that. I'll let you guys answer that question. I will answer it. And I'm so lucky to be covering this club at the moment, week in, week out. And you guys, I dare say, feel so lucky to be watching them. They are the most exciting club in Europe. Have they ever had a week, had a 10-day period, 8-day period, I think it is, and I'm actually losing track now, like this? Man United, Spurs and Arsenal, away victories on the back of 4 victories prior to that, one of which was Aston Villa. They are in such a good place right now. And I come back to the two words I used at the top, collectively and individually. And let's explore those reasons as to why. Now, when I asked Eddie Howe yesterday how would he approach this game as a 45 minutes with a view to a second night to come, on the isolation of 90 minutes, and would you just go out and play the way you have done in the previous 6 games, Eddie Howe said, no, it'll be the latter. If you do the former, you end up complicating things. You can tie yourself in knots, was his words. Well, in the end, there was certain individuals here tied in knots, but they were wearing red and they were in defence, and that was primarily because of Alexander Isak. And he served notice of that threat within 3 or 4 minutes when he breaks down the right, pulls it back for Joe Linton. It's an awful finish. Listen, Joe Linton might not have a very good game, but I think we can reflect now and say that was a terrible finish. Should have hit the target, didn't just do that. He hit what's beyond Z, I don't know, AA perhaps. Whatever row he hit, it wasn't a good finish at all, and he just made a note. He thought, will Newcastle actually come to regret that over the course of the 2 ties? I don't think they will, because of what subsequently played out. But it was a good start from Newcastle. It was a front foot start. To rewind a little bit further, prior to kick-off, I've been outside watching the teams come in then. As Alexander Isak walked in, predictably, there was a shout of welcome home from one Arsenal fan. Well, as I've written in tomorrow's Daily Mail, Isak subsequently played like an intruder, never mind being at home, and he was every bit as terrifying. Yet it was a starry-eyed Arsenal fan who said that, well, the stars soon made way for fear. In the stands and on the pitch, Isak was quite something, and he was up for it, and he was at it from the off. There was one incident in the first half there at the opposite end where William Saliba pushes him out wide, and it looks like Saliba's done everything right. He gets him to a standing start. And then from nowhere, it's as if Isak has leant into his back pocket and pulled out a set of starting blocks and spikes. He just springs away from him. Saliba, not many players do this to William Saliba, by the way. He's just left absolutely dumbfounded, pulls it back through the box. Lewis Hall's shot's blocked, comes to Tonali, he then skies it. You make another note, will Newcastle come to regret this? They're having some good chances during that early period, but so too were Arsenal. You've got to say, you use the word terrifying. Arsenal are pretty terrifying from set pieces. A couple were swung in, Dubravka punched at one, there was headers, one bouncing wide, bodies on the line again. They did what they had to do, but Julian Timber actually then missed a really good one at the far post. That probably could and should have been 1-0. So it was bouncing around, it was crazy fast before kick-off. I posted the video. The noise in here was quite something to see. You guys waving your scarves before kick-off. Even the home fans were up for it. It felt like a genuinely big game. Two heavyweight teams coming together live on Sky, live on terrestrial television. Just the ingredients to be here was truly a privilege. It honestly was. You know, lucky to do the job I do. You're especially lucky on nights like tonight, and that was before the ball had been kicked. But then during that opening half hour, they were just trading blows. They were going at each other. It was like a basketball game. There wasn't a great degree of control. Newcastle's midfield, as much as Sandro Tonali was trying, and there was a period where he did take the sting out of the game and he got on the ball. It was up, it was down, it was back to front. It was brilliant entertainment, and it was going to come down to the team or the player who could apply that finish and get their side in front. And surprise, surprise, it was Alexander Isak. And what I love about Isak right now is the variety of goals he's scoring. I say variety, they're all poachers finishes at the moment, and that is the point I make. You know, we know he can score that Thierry Henry-esque goal. You know, might as well use the Henry comparison given the surrounds in which we're in, when he can burst clear, when he can drop a shoulder, when he can dribble, when he can whip a finish. I've just whipped my hand there and caught it on the edge of the desk. I'm okay. I've got the Harry and Marv gloves on. So we know he can score that type of goal, but the last few, he's just Johnny on the spot. Right place, right time. It's the same again. Free kicks clipped in. Martin Dubravka, Sven Botman flicks it on. Jacob Murphy again with another assist. I think it's actually quite an underrated assist. It's such an important little poke. Now this might look an easy finish from Alexander Isak. Goalkeeper comes out. He's 6 yards out. Unmarked. What does he do? I think he's actually put it in the only part of the goal he can to make sure it goes in via the underside of the crossbar. I read something earlier. He doesn't score with his left foot. He did tonight. It's a fair observation. The numbers are there to back it up. But he did tonight. That cute left foot finish in off the underside of the crossbar. But by that point, he was already terrifying the home crowd here. It was no surprise when he walked off at half time, just down there in front of us. The TV cameras were in his face. They got a little bit closer than any Arsenal defender did in that first half. It's 1-0 at half time. But Newcastle have still ridden their luck. Listen, I think they flew in best. It was a different type of performance. And isn't that what we love and admire about them at the moment, that they are able to mix it up, that they are able to extract results without playing the same way all the time from minute 1 to minute 90, like some other teams with idealistic managers try to do. Eddie Howe has shown tactical flexibility, adaptability, did a job on Mikel Arteta here tonight, he really did. But with that, there was an element of fortune in needing defenders to defend, but that's what they're there to do. Did Martin Dubravka really have any huge saves to make? There was one right on the stroke of half time from Gabriel in the box. That was more akin to another block. It was as if Dubravka was hitting another centre half, really. A sweeper keeper just throwing his body in the way. I'm not even sure. Touched his hands. Was it his knees? I can't remember. There were so many blocks. We lost actual count and description of them. But it's 1-0 at half time. Newcastle come out for the second half. And Arsenal, they're so scared of Isak by now that they're actually starting to play into Newcastle's favour, because he's getting space. They're just stepping off him. 51st minute, 6 minutes after half time, gets the ball midway inside Arsenal's half, load of space. Tonali's done really well in the build-up as well. Tonali will get to him. Tonali, well in the build-up. Isak out wide to Murphy. Back to Isak. They stand off him again. He has the shot. It's parried by David Raya. Anthony Gordon then follows a brilliant anticipation from Gordon. I've called for him in recent videos to score more and assist more. Well, that's 2-2 now. I don't know what the wider stats are beyond that, but it's starting to click in terms of his goals and numbers. He can do that. He gets in for 2-0, but it's created, it's there because of Alexander Isak, because of what he did in the first half and that seed of doubt he's placed in the mind of Arsenal's defenders and the entire team and the entire stadium. Pretty much, he You know, I think I wrote in copy, the stealth of a jaguar, the speed of a cheetah, just unbelievable. He really is. You know, he's been playing well of late. He's been playing well. That was a different level. Well doesn't do that justice, how good he was here tonight. Now, he came off on 62 minutes. A little news insert. He's got a hamstring concern, and that is a concern. He won't play on Sunday. Eddie's given them all a good few days off there now. I've just seen half of them leaving in their civvies, probably heading into the nightlife of London. Good luck to them. They've actually deserved it after that. Yes, they're going to have a few days off ahead of Bromley. Alexander Isak won't feature on Sunday. I dare say he'll have a period where he doesn't train as well. Eddie Howe said he was protecting him, but it was job done. Newcastle were 2-0 up by that point, and from that moment on, it was an entirely different performance. You know, guy in the press box said to me, you know, he's gone early, Eddie, with this sitting back in, attempting to frustrate, taking Isak off. Well, there was mitigation for that because he did have the slight hamstring concern, but it was right. It was the right call. As I said earlier, Eddie did a job on Mikel Arteta. He knew and he backed those players, led by Burn and Botman, Big Botman, Burn, BBB, yeah, BBB, it works, Big Botman and Burn. They led that resistance and saw out the game. And I got a text from a colleague, my boss at the Daily Mail, who said he was almost kicking and clearing every ball with them there, cheering on. He's a neutral, he's not a Newcastle supporter at all, but when you're watching a team like that on the television, I think you cannot help but champion them. And the whole nation, I dare say, I don't know, might not be speaking for everybody, but it felt as if everybody was in that Newcastle penalty box in the second half there. The entire population, such was that resistance and such was that wall. And yeah, they had chances, Arsenal, listen, you cannot deny that. And one goal would have changed everything, would have really changed the complexion here. And I said this to one of my colleagues, I said there's a huge difference as the lights go out, but the lights on Newcastle United's Carabao Cup campaign are very much alive as I backpedal down the steps here. Let's get back in the light now. If I fell over, you know, I think this is a good video, I'm enjoying it, but if I did go backwards, it would be even better. I've survived. Now, yeah, where were we? The difference between 2-0 and 2-1. Difference is that if it's 2-1, Arsenal know that a victory at St James's Park takes the tie to extra time. A 1-0 victory, a 2-1 victory. They've just got to go there and win. It almost simplifies the task in their minds. 2-0 doesn't. They can go to St James's Park and win 1-0, I don't think they will, but they can go there and win 1-0, 2-1, and it still wouldn't be enough. That 2-goal cushion is absolutely huge. But Newcastle have got to go and do what they did here tonight. Go out and take the game to Arsenal. They're in a better place than Arsenal right now. They're a better team than Arsenal right now. They've got better individuals. Arsenal don't have Alexander Isak. It's why they like him. It's why every club in the land should like him. He's actually pricing himself out of a move so good as he no club will be able to afford him. If Alexander Isak wants to go, and we don't think he does, why should he want to go on the back of that there now? Yes, there was the doubt in the summer, just a little, you know, sideways here. There was the doubt in the summer. There was the contract talks that happened for a little bit and then didn't happen. A little bit of doubt. I think Isak and others looked at the direction and the speed of the project. Well, hasn't the last 2 months just told them that they can achieve what they want to achieve at Newcastle? Champions League football, anything less now would be a disappointment. I wrote in the Daily Mail this morning, I was asked the question, what's more important, ending 70 years without a domestic trophy in the Carabao Cup or qualifying for the Champions League? I said, well, actually, the only answer is you go and do both if you want to be the club Newcastle want to be. If they want to be the club they can be, the team they can be. When Alexander Isak looks around now, he just sees good player, good player, good player. Sandro Tonali passing the ball to him. Dan Burn blocking at the other end. Anthony Gordon snaffling up his rebounds. All international class players. Bruno Guimaraes sat at home dancing around the living room with his baby. International class players. Alexander Isak has got what he needs at Newcastle. Yes, there needs to be a little bit off the field, absolutely. But in the isolation of that group who go into the training ground every day, they're delivering. Absolutely, they're delivering. That's why I use the phrase tonight. Felt like a real big statement from the manager, from the players, from that collective. The individuals within it, we'll get to the merit stars. There are a few who didn't make it, but they were just big performances all over the park. You know, Joe Willock came back in. I thought he had a really sticky first half, gave the ball away a couple of times. Different in the second half, in that early part of the second half before he went off, you know, really stepped up and showed his worth. Probably understandable that he hasn't been in the team. Jacob Murphy a couple of times gave the ball away and was a little bit frustrating. But again, it's another assist. So all of these players, we talk about the big stars, and there is a differentiation, you know, in there between the very best and some of the others, but they're all contributing. Lewis Hall doesn't make the podium. I'll give you that now as an advance warning. He was tremendous tonight. He's just looking like an international class, sturdy, solid left back. You know, Kenny Sansom played here, one of England's best ever left backs. Has Lewis Hall got a little bit of Kenny Sansom, he played in Newcastle as well, not so memorable period, but has he got a bit of Kenny Sansom about him? He's got that class, that composure on the ball, he's got the frame. No one can get past Lewis Hall, and he was up against good players here tonight. So, yeah, I'm running out of breath now. I think I best move on to the merit stars. In terms of reflecting on what actually happened in the final half hour when those changes came, Isak went off. They went 5-5-0, and it was just block, 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 more blocks, Byrne, Botman, Hall, Longstaff getting involved. Everyone to a man. I bumped into a Newcastle member of staff there who's worked at the club for 40, 50 years, longest serving member. He said he hadn't seen a defensive performance like that in all of his time. It really was quite incredible. And because of that, they take that all-important 2-goal cushion into the second leg. It's 1 foot in the semi-final. Let's not start talking about finals. Much as you would make them heavy favourites for it now, no team has ever lost a 2-goal advantage from a first leg going into a second leg in a League Cup semi-final, and it's 40, 50-year existence. I don't think Newcastle are going to, but there still is that little bit of work to be done, especially given the quality of the opposition. But didn't they show themselves to be superior here tonight? Okay, guys, the merit stars. And like I said, I've wrestled with this, and let's go in ascending order. And the 1 star, well, that goes to Sandro Tonali. How can it not? No Bruno Guimaraes alongside him there tonight. No sidekick. They needed someone to step up. Not that he hasn't stepped up. He's been there. He's stepped up and more in recent weeks, but they needed someone just to take almost complete control of the midfield. Like I say, Bruno's his sidekick in there in terms of the player who can get on the ball and make things happen and keep the ball. They've got that evolutionary quality that Eddie Howe wants to take his team to. There was no Bruno tonight, but at times when Newcastle needed it, Tonali got on the ball. Apart from that, in the second half, how many loose balls did he win? He hasn't just got that second gear, he's got that third, fourth, fifth gear to get away from players. When everybody else is tiring, he is still going. His Italy manager, the coach, recently said, when the game finishes, Sandro Tonali's engine is still revving in the garage. I understand what he meant now. We actually hadn't seen that at the time on Newcastle. You thought, well, what's he talking about? That isn't this player we're seeing in a black and white shirt. It is now. He's just given he just looks like one of the best midfielders in the league, in Europe by extension. He's sitting in there and he's doing everything. There's nothing he can't do, and he only gets 1 star. That shows you how good the team have played tonight. And the 2 stars, we'll move on to them, the Siamese centre-backs. I'm sorry, I like to stick to the rules of a 1-2-3. I think it makes the debate better. It makes my life that little bit harder. But no, I'm sorry, they came as a pair tonight. Sven Botman, after 10 months out. How can you, one of the Newcastle players, remain unnamed, I was in the mix zone there, he stopped and he had a little chat with us and he said, it was just, wow, it wasn't on the record. He was just like, wow, Sven Botman, 10 months out, really? To go and play like that. Listen, there was one instant in the first half where Martinelli didn't for pace, went through and hit the post. Martinelli can do that to anyone, and actually come from a colleague, I think it was Willock in midfield, had given the ball away at that point. So yeah, there was mitigation there, but didn't he recover from that? Again, I can't even list the individual blocks. There were just so many. Botman must have had 4 or 5 or 6 of them. He was tremendous. And alongside him, Dan Byrne. Now, Dan Byrne has got top merit stars in the last 2 games, a 3 and a 3. I'm sorry, Dan, there's only 2 this time, but it was a 3-star performance. Not because a certain individual actually does have to take top place on the podium all by himself. But Dan Byrne and Botman together, they just epitomised everything that was brave. I'm coming back to the same words. That was brave, that was brilliant, that was gigantic, that was colossus about that resistance and that performance there. So 2 stars for Botman and Byrne. And yeah, can they play together? 2 left footers? Certainly looked so on that evidence there tonight. And finally, the man out by himself. I said when I walked in, they were fluttering their eyelashes at Alexander Isak. Well, come off time, come the hour when he went off, they couldn't bear to watch he tormented them. He really did torment them. Now, you could hear that go back to that Saliba moment, you could actually hear the collective murmurings in the stand, everyone nudging each other. They weren't having a go, they weren't knocking down Saliba, they were building up Isak, and you can probably imagine what they were saying. But for now, as I touched on, he's got everything he can want at Newcastle. If they can convert on this, can they get the trophy? Can they get back into the Champions League? With that, does he then get the rewards he perhaps wants and deserves off the pitch? There are 2 sides to this, guys. Now, it's not as simple as Isak being happy because Newcastle are winning. He's playing with good players. There are 2 elements to it. The stadiums, there's training grounds, there's everything else. There's the monetary reward. And you saw there tonight, he's the best player on the pitch. And this is up against guys who are probably being paid an extra £100,000 as to what Alexander Isak is getting every week at Newcastle. So you can see why there is that little concern there. But right now, on the pitch, there is absolutely no concern. And that, out of all of his games, out of all the games he's scored in, and what is it now? Is it 10 goals in the past 8? I think that was his best all-round performance, just for that ability to come in, to come out, to go wide, to get the ball, to go by men, to serve that threat, that it changed the entire makeup of a team such as Arsenal, a team who want to challenge for the title. It disrupted the defence, disrupted the midfield in turn, disrupted their attack. So good was he, and that's what players of that calibre can do. And he was only on for an hour, and fingers crossed he's okay. It sounded like talking to Eddie as if he should be. It was a precautionary measure, taking him off. Eddie said they've got to protect him, but yeah, just incredible, brilliant, world-class, 3 stars. Now, some newsy elements to come from tonight, guys. Martin Dubravka, I filmed it at the end there. It looked like he was crying, saying a tearful goodbye. As he walked through the mix zone, I said, Martin, have you got a couple of minutes? He sort of tapped his chest, his heart area, and said, not now. Again, still looked visibly upset. Meanwhile, Eddie Howe in the press conference was being asked about Dubravka a little bit earlier, and he was pushed on, is he going to go? You know, is this his last game? It certainly looked from Dubravka's body language as if it was his last game. Eddie said he hopes that's not the case. It would be his wish that he got a new contract, but he hadn't spoken to Paul Mitchell yet today. And guys, that just sounds as if we could be heading, it didn't sound good, that situation. I've got to admit, we reported on it in the summer. I know it was played down in some quarters. Trust me, guys, there was issues there in the summer. There really was. Go and revisit all the articles I wrote at the time. You know, it's something I think we're probably going to have to revisit this week. And Dubravka now seems to be a point of disagreement, shall we say. Eddie Howe clearly wants to keep him. You can see why I did the video a week ago. I think it would make no football sense whatsoever to allow Martin Dubravka to go. He's playing, and he's playing well. He's given the team a different way of playing. He's making saves. Distribution-wise, he's given something as well. It's crazy if they allow him to go for me, especially as they don't know what condition Nick Pope is going to come back in. But as Eddie said yesterday, that key killer quote, business logic is trumping football logic in the modern game. This is one we've got to watch, guys. So stay logged on to all my platforms so that there'll be updates in the next 24 hours. Elsewhere, in terms of news, well, Sven Botman's got a little bit of a groin complaint. Again, it sounds as if these were just little niggles that need managing, and there will be during the course of the next week or so ahead of Wolves on Wednesday, when that is when the players who played here tonight will return. I think we're going to see an entirely different 11 pretty much against Bromley on Sunday, when Newcastle have a chance to make, I'm losing count, correct me below the line if I'm wrong, is it 8 wins on the spin? It could be against Bromley. Then those 2 huge home games in the league, Wolves and Bournemouth, 2 very winnable games that could then take Newcastle to 10 out of 10, all the way back to the start in 92, 93. I remember that. I was actually ball boy for the game that ruined it at home to Grimsby. And yet, just quick little insert, as the ball came towards me, John Beresford went behind me to get the ball. I've gone to catch it. It spun off my hand into the paddock, and Newcastle were left chasing a 1-goal deficit. Jim Dobbin had scored 2 minutes earlier. Bears had a real pop at me. But anyway, you know, I'm going back over old ground in previous traumas. Tonight was not traumatic. Tonight, from a Newcastle United perspective, tonight was tremendous. That's where I was getting to. Tonight for Newcastle was just, brilliant. Eddie Howe, to think there was some who were doubting him 8 or 9 games ago. What a response. This is why I was so strong in my coverage across written, across broadcast, these videos as well. They've got the right man. He is fantastic. All the superlatives I've used previously, chuck them all in for the manager. They've got the best coach for me in the Premier League. They're lucky to have them. Ally that with some fantastic players, and wow, what a good place they are in. But as he said just now to us downstairs, that can change quite quickly in football. They've got to keep it going. I don't think it's showing any signs of stopping, and it certainly didn't here tonight. So on we roll, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment below the line, hit like, subscribe, tell me what you thought of the Merit Stars. It's just a brilliant club to club. How many times have I used that word? Someone go back and count up. Yeah, so it's just fantastic to cover at the moment. A little bit of variation there. Thank you so much for watching. If you're travelling back, please have a safe journey, and I'll be back at the end of the week looking ahead to Bromley. Okay, guys, take care. Bye-bye.